first day of excretion and waste management. I'm going to be honest right off the get-go here that this is a unit that students tend to struggle with. All the units we've done so far consist mainly of things you've heard of in your daily life. So with digestion, you know of stomach and small and large intestine, that sort of thing. And you know the general gist of what it does. Excretion and waste management, we're going to talk a little bit about how things are excreted and a few of the organs that they're excreted from, but we're going to get up close and personal with the kidneys. And you will have heard of the kidneys, except that how the kidneys do the work, the nephron inside is the functional unit of the kidney, and we're going to get up close and personal with that and how it works. And that's a little bit tricky. So this may take a little bit more time or effort than some of the previous units have before. Okay, so we're going to just these are the questions I want you to think about while we're going through it. How does your body rid itself of wastes? What would happen in your home if you never took out the garbage? So you think about that for a second. Think about what would happen in your home if you never took out the garbage. And if you've ever watched those hoarding shows on TV, you may have a good idea, right? The garbage builds up. Things don't function the way they are supposed to, right? If your kitchen is full of garbage and dirty dishes and like you're climbing over stuff, you can't safely use the stove or whatever else. Sometimes that garbage piles up. It traps things like, mold or whatever, starts to mold, attracts, parasites or animals to come and eat it. So it really, if you don't take out the trash in your house doesn't function. And it's not just the garbage, it usually spills out into all the other rooms, not just the kitchen, it usually spills out into all the other rooms. So the same thing happens to our body if we never get rid of the waste or the garbage in our body too. So we've talked a little bit about the second question, why do we sweat? We've talked a little bit about that for kind of heat management, but we're going to talk about that and what other things it gets rid of as well. And again, why do we urinate and what comes out in our urine as well? So those are some kind of key questions you can think about as we start to go through here. So your cells are constantly carrying out chemical reactions to maintain homeostasis. So we called that metabolism before, right? Many of these chemical reactions produce waste that must be removed from the cells in your body. And we just finished doing the respiration unit, and the waste that was made from cellular respiration was carbon dioxide and water that we were getting rid of, right? So many of these wastes are small water soluble, so that means it can dissolve in water. Molecules become dissolved in your blood along with other small molecules that are not waste. So how's your body able to separate and excrete waste products of metabolism? So excretion is the process that rids the body of metabolic wastes. So again, these are the waste from the chemical reactions that are happening, especially the nitrogenous waste. So nitrogenous is just a fancy word for nitrogen containing. So it's a way for waste to be removed from the body. Okay. So the wastes that have to be removed, so ammonia is one of the products of cellular metabolism, and it's really toxic. So it's converted to urea, which is much less toxic by the liver before being released into the bloodstream. So there always are traces of ammonia. It's from the breakdown of amino acids in the liver, and those trace amounts get excreted by the kidneys, but most of it is converted into urea. So it's a conversion of ammonia in the liver, and it goes out mainly through the kidneys as well, but a little bit through the skin. Carbon dioxide, again, is a breakdown of those glucose in your cells by cellular respiration. So as we're making energy, we're also making carbon dioxide, and we exhale that through our lungs mainly, but a little is given off in our intestines and a little through our skin as well. Water, again, made from the breakdown of glucose in your cells via cellular respiration. So again, we talked about this in respiration. So cellular respiration is glucose, or that sugar, plus oxygen, and in our cells, specifically the mitochondria organelle of our cells, converts that sugar and oxygen into carbon dioxide, which is a waste product, water, which is a waste product, and then energy in the form of ATP, which is what we're really trying to make there. And that water is given off by our kidneys and our urine. It's exhaled a little bit through our lungs. So again, if you've ever breathed on a mirror or whatever else, you'll notice it does kind of fog up with water vapor. A little bit through our intestines and through our skin when we sweat as well. And mineral or just salts from our food and water through our kidneys and our skin as well. So cellular respiration, there's the formula there. So C6H12O6, that's glucose. plus oxygen give you carbon dioxide, a waste product, water, a waste product, and this is what we're really trying to get to, is this energy or ATP. So excrement or feces is really not included in the list of metabolic wastes. So your feces does have trace amounts of water and a little bit of carbon dioxide in it, but mainly it's not considered a metabolic waste because excrement is not a product of cellular metabolism. So it's not from the chemical reactions that are happening to in our body to make the things we need. It's a leftover after the body absorbed what nutrients it needed from the food or your small intestine. Okay, so that's why it's not the same. So excretion really isn't the same as defecation, so which is the process that rids the body of those undigested, unabsorbed food remains, plus a little bit of those bacteria products. So it's not the end product of metabolism or end metabolic end products. We're going to be focusing mainly on urine. It's composed mainly of urea, about 3%, salts 2%, and 95% water. And we'll talk about how urine is made. So our organs of excretion, so we have our kidneys. They excrete urine, regulate blood volume and pH, and we'll get into that in a minute. I'm going to ignore this diagram because I've got it on a separate page that I'll come back to in a minute. So organs of excretion are kidneys, our skin, so the sweat glands in our skin excrete perspiration. That consists of water, salt, and small amounts of urea. Excretion from the skin is primarily for cooling, so that evaporative cooling we talked about in homeostasis. The liver excretes bile, which contains pigments that are breakdowns of products of red blood cell metabolism. Bile, again, is sent to the small intestine. Urochrome, from the breakdown of heme, the hemoglobin in those red blood cells, gives urine its yellow color. The lungs are excreting carbon dioxide and some water as well. And your intestines excrete some iron and calcium salts, which are secreted into intestines and then into the feces. So those are the main organs, would be your lungs, your skin, and your kidneys for sure. And the intestines are kind of an add-on. The urinary system, so this is where we're going to spend the better part of the next couple of weeks. Again, this unit, if you look in your course outline, is only 2 weeks long. We're not doing the lab, so that'll be a little quicker, but we're only doing kind of programming for about 3 hours a day, so it might take a little longer. But, you know, we can expect to get through this before the end of May, hopefully kind of around the May long weekend, maybe just shortly after. So the urinary system consists of these parts. So your renal vein, so anything that says use the word renal, just like cardiac is heart and pulmonary is lungs, renal and hepatic is kidney, or HEPA is, or sorry, not kidney, HEPA is liver, renal is kidney. So renal vein carries blood from the kidneys back to the heart. Renal arteries carry blood to the heart. So we've got to filter all our blood through our kidneys, and we'll talk about how that works and how fast that happens. So that renal artery takes the blood to the kidneys for filtration. Your kidneys are reddish-brown organs, about 4 inches long, 2 inches wide, and 1 inch thick, so a little bit bigger than a deck of cards. And they're anchored against the dorsal, which is the back body wall by connective tissue. So they're kind of lower back, kind of right above your sit bones. If you put your fist there, that's about where your kidneys would be. And if we were to do a fetal pig dissection at the end of the year, you would actually see this connective tissue that you have to tease it kind of away before you can get access to the kidney. So they are anchored to the back wall there. The ureter or ureter, lots of these words people pronounce differently. I've got a video for you tomorrow where I think he's Irish, so he pronounces things a little bit different than I do, but same idea, same word. So ureter or ureter are muscular tubes, and they move urine from the kidneys down to that bladder or urinary bladder via peristalsis. So peristalsis was that rhythmic muscle contractions we talked about in the digestive tract or digestion unit. The urinary bladder, and again, we have I have urinary in brackets here because often we'll just say the bladder. We only have the urinary bladder, so when we're talking about humans, we can use those terms interchangeably. Other organisms like fish have a swim bladder, so then you would want to, if you were talking about the animal kingdom, you would want to talk about the urinary bladder or the swim bladder. But in our case here, we only have one bladder, so you can say urinary bladder, or you can just refer to it as the bladder, and that's fine. So it holds up to 600 milliliters or 1,000 milliliters of urine. So 600 to 1,000 milliliters of urine. So if you think of a 1 liter kind of milk jug, that's kind of the volume of urine that your body can hold. And it expands and contracts. So it has stretch receptors that indicate when it's full, and it notifies the brain. So as your bladder starts to fill up, those stretch receptors send messages to the brain. And if you've ever had to go to the bathroom really bad and you're maybe not able to get there right that second, those stretch receptors send messages more frequently to the brain. Oh, I really have to go. Oh, I really got to go now. I don't know if I'm going to make it. Those sorts of things. And those are from the stretch receptors in the wall of the bladder sending messages to the brain. And the last part is the urethra. This is the tube connecting the bladder to the outside. So the urethra of a man is about 6 inches long. It extends through the penis. In the man, the urethra also transports semen, but never at the same time as urine. For women, the urethra is only about 1 inch long, which is why females get maybe more bladder infections or urinary tract infections, because bacteria can invade more easily. I had an extra slide in there, sorry about that. So this is the diagram you have on the bottom of page 7. I've filled it in for you. This one has 2 extra on there, so I just want to take a second and go through it. So your diagram just has the kidney. So Y is the kidney, W is these ureters or ureters. So I'm just going to get my yellow pen here because it's going to take that urine from the kidney down here via those rhythmic muscle contractions called peristalsis into that bladder down there. And then here's your urinary bladder. Again, it can stretch to hold up to about 500 to 1,000 milliliters of fluid. And then there's the urethra, and this is a female. Up at the top, we do have the renal and vein and the renal artery. And these, you are technically in our curriculum guide supposed to know how to label these. Although unless the picture's in color and they're labeled kind of red and blue, like I've just said, it's typically a bit of a difficult ask for you. Usually the renal artery is a little bit bigger and it's often portrayed in front of the renal vein. So I just want to kind of point that out to you here, but it's not necessarily always like that. So I don't usually get you to label them because, again, other than making a color photocopy and color coding them red and blue, it's really difficult to tell. The structure and the picture is no different for the renal artery or renal vein. But you don't necessarily need to label them, but you should understand that they're bringing blood to the kidney. So the renal artery is taking blood away, because arteries take blood away from the heart to the kidney, and the vein is returning that blood back towards the heart, back to the heart. So that's the introduction kind of to excretion and the organs of excretion and the urinary system. We're going to get up close and personal with the kidney over the next few days. In addition to doing your terms, so if you've picked up the new booklet at the school or you've downloaded it from Teams, what you'll notice is I've actually given you all the terms filled in. So I'm not going to ask you to write them out this month. If you'd like to, if that's helpful to you, by all means, get a piece of paper and do that. But if not, just make sure you're using your flashcards and going through those terms because they are a little bit different. And like most of the words you have never heard before. Plan for today, oh my goodness, is task number 1. So I want you to circle or highlight the answer. So task number 1 is on page 8 in your booklet. So this is the COVID edition from the booklet because I've put a lot more practice back into the booklets because I found that they were kind of lacking over the last couple of, so we might not have as many exit slips and things this time because I've got some more tasks that I've put back in here. So you're going to circle or highlight the best answer in your booklet, either online or on the paper if you have that copy. You don't need to send it to me. This is just for practice. So the whole booklet is just for practice. I'll post the key for task 1 into tomorrow's lesson folder, so you'll have it there. Tomorrow we get up close and personal with the kidney and we start filtration. I hope that's helpful. Have a great day.